What's going on, everybody? Welcome to a fresh week on the ice. It's propping up on the Gold Boys Network, brought to you by Pickett, the top app for finding the best price, tracking your own bets, see what's working, what's not. Thanks to Pickett. GriffyBets. I lost my voice on Saturday, just watching the Eagles just take a dump on the Giants. So. Sorry about what you're hearing here. I'll do my best. I'm joined as always by Walla. How are we doing?
Doing all right. I could tell that you had a good time. It's a good game. You're obviously still recovering from that, but no, I had a good weekend as well. I'm also an Eagles fan, so that was nice to see. And yesterday was a good day with some hockey bets. So
It
nice weekend.
was it was a good weekend. Yeah, I mean, my fiance said I sound sexier now, so maybe once a week I'll just go somewhere and just scream for like an hour and a half, keep this raspiness.
Yeah, just get
Um,
work that into your schedule.
uh, yeah, and with hockey too. I mean, Thursday night was kind of felt like almost a season low for me. I just like was bleeding units. And the last 3 days, I've just kept it really simple. And three straight profitable nights to end the week was exactly what the doctor ordered. So I like I'm going to try to just keep it simple for a while. Like the teams that are the worst defensively, just find the highest volume shooter. If he's got good history against them, just let it rip. It's basically all I did this weekend, and it worked out. So I'm going to keep that going today. Hopefully, keep it rolling.
Yeah, I think that's a solid method, and there's definitely, even though it's only four games, there's some interesting angles here. Definitely a couple good targets and some guys with some really nice history. So even though it's a small slate, um, I'm sitting here like thinking I'm gonna need to do some half unit plays to manage myself on the small slate here.
Yeah, I think I've got something that's touching every game so far. I'm mostly focused on the home teams. Why don't we just jump right in? First one I think looks great is Florida, New York. Definitely focused on the Rangers side. I mean, Florida's had their penalty issues, which has sort of helped make them a nice shot target, a nice goal target. They've been letting up a lot of goals, especially on the road. And I don't know what it is about New York and Florida, but this top line, Panarin, Mika, and Kreider, they really like to score against Florida. All of them, assists, goals, whatever it is, they're all racking up points last 5 to 7 games. So that's where I went immediately. I think you were on a similar wavelength.
Yeah, it is pretty impressive. I think you had mentioned they each have a goal in I think the last three meetings at least. Um, they there's some shot success, like you said, assists and points. And yeah, I think if you're looking that angle, the one that stuck out the most to both of us was Panarin. I mean, he he's got a ton goals, points, a lot of multi-point games against Florida, and even when you just look at charts in general, he's at home. He's got a solid hit rate for points, 71%.
Yep.
Coming off a game where he didn't have one against Boston, so balance just to balance out with the statistics there. This is a good spot. Should get chances on the power play. They let up those goals, so seeing him down at 1 point is that's
It's
really nice.
crazy.
A lot of
Yeah.
times you get 2 points. So
Yeah. That seemed like an awesome. That was the first play I put in. Probably my favorite. We'll touch on it more, but Toffoli shots, Panarin point. I mean, he's got a point in 11 straight against Florida, but the far more exciting was 2 points in six straight. And yeah, I mean, the Rangers power play hasn't been amazing this year, but they've been fine. And when you're getting Florida, who is currently averaging the fourth most penalties per game over the last 10, and they've got a what looks like the eighth worst penalty kill. I definitely think New York finds a power play goal. I mean, I don't hate doing their team total as well, but I think honing in on these three guys is the right approach tonight.
Yeah, we're on a lot of similar stuff. Maybe in different ways. Uh, I like the fully shots play as well. I'll be talking about that. And yeah, it's kind of hard to pick here. I did do if you have bet 365 and you can do like same game point parlays. Yeah, I put a little bit on just that top line, just all three of them to get a point. Um, Obviously really correlated, can happen on the power play. It doesn't have to be on one play, but it could happen on one play with those guys. They just have a lot of success there. So that was something I just did, because I have that available on that book. But if you don't, then I think Panner and Point's probably uh, strongest one that I would look at there to use. And then shots wise, out of those three, I really liked Kreider today. He's he's hit in, I believe, 8 of his last 10 overall. So you like that. He can go up and down with the volume, but when he has that volume, he can have some really huge games, and you could see that against Florida. He's hit his shots in 4 straight against them. He had an 8-shot game against them this season, and in his last 3 has 9, 7, and 7 attempts against them. And I think just with the power play opportunities and stuff, I really liked him in a parlay. That's who I put with Toffoli. So we're both on that same path, like you said.
Yeah, and I also think it kind of fits the bill. I feel like maybe we just had a lot of returns from injury. It wasn't a long layoff for Kreider, but I'm glad this is his second game back and not his first. And I like seeing him hit his shots anyway against Boston on what looks like Friday of last week, 4 days ago, whatever that math is. So I like him. I mean, he only missed 9, 10 days, but still, sometimes I can be a little hesitant to back a guy on his first game. So yeah, I mean, 4 straight hits at home for him. I liked that he was the steadiest of his shots. So I did him with Rasmus Anderson, who again we'll talk about him later, but it was kind of a parlay morning just with the prices we're getting. But I think we got some good spots.
What's nice too is they already put out alt lines too, for a lot of these games. So if you don't like doing the parlay and you know, some of these guys have had some really big games in the past that we're talking about. So there's always those options too. Alt shot lines at a higher price.
Yeah, I think Panarin probably in that market is the most interesting to me. I mean, he did go under against Florida on the first, but he had 5 shots the meeting before that, and his last 2 games at home, he's got 7 and 5. And his attempts are just really high right now. I don't hate him. I kind of want to put a half unit on him to score just because of how much he's shooting and the fact he's had such success against Florida. But I think there's merit to all three of these guys to score. If you wanted to do a same game parlay, or you put a half unit on all three and just hope. I mean, if Panarin scores, you bet on all three, you're up a little bit. Otherwise, you would need 2 of 3 for profit. But I think someone's finding the back of the net here.
Yeah, I'm just looking at his shots. It's kind of misleading if you just look at the chart itself over his last 10. You see 5 hits and a couple one-shot games, 0 shot on goal game. It doesn't look that great, but it is true if you go down to his attempts over the last 5. I mean, somehow he went 0 for 7 against Columbus, 2 for 9 against Dallas, 1 for 8 against Minnesota. So the volume's been there. And I say this all the time: if the volume's there and the guy's missing a ton of shots, like a few games straight, if that volume stays there, it's just like, I expect a positive regression. So his minus 120 line for 3 shots really doesn't look awful here if he maintains that volume. And especially you switch to his home chart, he's hit in 6 of his last 8 games at home. So if you prefer a straight look for, a shots line, the volume for Panarin right now, I think, is making -120 look okay.
And it's making plus 230 for a goal look really okay to me. I haven't bet it yet, but I'm gonna probably have to bet that. But again, Mika's at plus 172, Kreider plus 180. I like them all.
Yeah,
I don't. I'm not looking at Florida here tonight. Rangers really tight to shots at home. I just again in the same vein, trying to keep it simple. I'm not going to target New York or even really look because I'm sure someone in Florida looks good, but I don't like the spot, so I don't want to force it here.
yeah. I was just gonna say, if you look at the other side and just keep it simple as far as who's shooting, it's Verhage. He's hit in 5 straight
Mm-hmm.
games, with 4 of them being 4 plus, and he had 4 against the Rangers last time he saw them, and he's at -114 for 2.5. So that's a, yeah, target wise, when you're looking at the stats, Rangers don't pop out as a good target, but that's the guy who's been shooting recently for Florida, 7 attempts in 3 straight games. So that would be
I
where I would look if I looked at that side.
I was admittedly poking around on some of those FanDuel specials, and Panarin and Verhage to both get 4 shots was plus 830. That just caught my eye as I was in the Philly airport trying to throw in a little lotto before I hit the air. Uh,
That does look pretty good.
that caught my eye, but definitely prefer New York. Feel free if you don't like rooting on players. I think either New York over 3.5 or doing their 2.5 with something else is a great angle here.
Yeah,
Uh, all right, let's jump to Toronto, New York, the other New York Islanders. All I thought here was Toronto shots are probably going to look good. The Islanders letting up the 4th most on the road in the last 10 games. I think we're both a little surprised to see Tavares get a bump down here to 2.5, a very inviting number for someone like that,
yeah,
uh, who I often say, because he's been at 3.5 for so long, and you look, be like, I'd love him at 3. Whenever alts come out, if they do, it can be frustrating, but at 2.5, he's hit that in 74% of games this year. What looks like 9 of his last 10 games at home, and pretty steady against the Islanders, 3 of his last 4 games. So I liked him as a parlay piece.
yeah. I think that's going to be a popular parlay piece today, and I mean, uh, old team too. So he's put up shots against them. You've seen that. He, I think he had a goal the last time they played. Yeah, last time they played, he scored against them. Previous to that, he was just hitting his shots. Does have a point in 2 straight against them, and you know, Islanders past couple of games been letting in some goals. So, oh, I was kind of looking, maybe he can have a big night against his former team here. We're already liking his shots. I'm trying. There's all these juiced pieces, and I don't want to have too many parlays out, because to me it's so frustrating when you make a few parlays and just like one leg from each hits in them or something like that. But uh he's definitely an interesting one here. I think you could definitely use the shots 100%. But I was almost kind of thinking, man, he could just have himself a game, maybe a his shots and a point parlay or something like that, because he's pretty steady with points as well. So all around, just looks like a good spot.
And yeah, and just when you poke around on, if you use props.cash, which I highly recommend, um, either as a starter or as a finisher to find a play, you poke around to the other guys you can bet on. I mean, Bunting's got a couple of goose eggs in here recently, Marner as well. Uh, Tavares is just by far the steadiest. I mean, Nylander at home has been awesome, but not that consistent against the Islanders. And I mean, Matthews, you'd have to parlay anyway at a number higher. and that doesn't excite me that much either. So Tavares looks awesome.
Yeah, I was hoping that like there might have been one of those popular parlays that was like Tavares and Nylander to get 3 shots or something, but they weren't messing around with that one. That would have been a definite definite look for me then.
Is Nylander always at just 1 point, like 0.5? I feel like he was a 1.5 guy, but they got him down at 0.5 today. Um, and that looks pretty good.
Yeah,
He's
75%
got
at home.
4 points in his last three against New York. I certainly expect, especially after Toronto just dropped an embarrassing game to Montreal, and Montreal in a massive rivalry. I'm sure they'd like to pour on a couple goals here.
Yeah, that's a good look too. It's real solid. That could be. I think you would get a better price on that than you would if you did a same game parlay of Tavares shots and points because of correlation on it being the same player. You might get a better price doing something with like Tavares shots and a Nylander point. So I think it's a definitely looking like a day with a lot of parlay legs to consider. This is they're getting wise. They're juicing a lot of the stuff that looks good.
And I'm sure I'm going to butcher his name, but I don't know. Sorokin, that can't be it. I apologize. But Islanders goalie, he's been struggling lately. I think you might have mentioned it earlier this morning when we were chatting through a couple things, but 4 goals, 3 goals, 4 goals allowed his last three. The amount of shots they've been giving up, I would expect a similar number here.
Yeah, that was definitely what made me start considering those points angles. Um, Normally you see him and you're just like, oh, all right, avoid. But yeah, I've been letting in some goals lately, so I could see one of those coming through and being a good parlay piece.
That's all I really liked in this game. Toronto really tight to shots at home. So, it's funny. Actually, 3 of the 4 tightest teams to shots at home are all at home today with the Rangers, Maple Leafs, and Flames. So I have no interest in targeting any of those teams.
Yeah, I no, not too crazy about the other sides as well. One guy in the Islanders has some volume. Is it Bouvier? Is that how you pronounce it?
That sounds right to me.
So this one's just jumps off when you're just looking at his chart. He's not consistent at all for most of the season. Doesn't really wasn't really getting over 2 shots too often. But then his last 10 games, all of a sudden, volume up a little bit, his attempts, and he's hit his line in 6 of his last 8 games, with 5 of them being 4+ shots. And against, you look at the matchup: Carolina 4 shots, all right, Buffalo 3 shots, Boston 4 shots. It's 6 shots against Dallas, 4 shots against Calgary. I mean, that's impressive. Not just hitting his line out of nowhere, but he's hitting like he's getting 2 shots over his line. And last time he faced Toronto, he had 4 shots on goal on 7 attempts, and that was in Toronto. So I just wanted to put that one out there. It's just tempting me plus 122. I can't imagine what his 4 shots probably awesome, but not that I'm saying to definitely do that, but his volume's up and he's hitting against some tough opponents, including hitting against Toronto already.
Yeah, that is interesting. I wonder, I'm not seeing any like uptick in power play or minutes on ice. So I don't know if there was some kind of line shift or something.
Yeah, I'd have to dig in more. All that I've noticed is just that little bit of volume bumping up, and uh oh yeah, and on props.cash you can filter by attempts. And I just thought it was real interesting. He doesn't get volume too often for most of the season, because if you just bump it up to only showing games where he takes at least 3 attempts, uh, his hit rate at 2.5 goes up to 66%. So,
Mm.
if he gets the opportunities, that's a really nice hit rate. It's just most of the season, he just was only taking a couple attempts a game. But last 10, he's obviously taken more chances and, uh, yeah, just plus money there. Just thought that one just stuck out to me.
It is an interesting filter I don't play around with. In his last couple games, he's getting 6 attempts a lot. Even you filter it to 4 or 5 attempts, and he's basically hits every time.
Yeah, that's so if he has the volume, if you that's all it really comes down to. I can't predict definitely if the volume will be there, but, yeah, he's shown that even just give him, 3 let him start at 3 attempts there and work his way, then his hit rate is so much higher, and that was at plus money against the team. Last time he was in Toronto, 4 shots on goal and 7 attempts, so interesting.
Yeah, that was worth flagging. Why don't we jump to the next game? Buffalo Dallas.
Mhm.
This is kind of similar, but I definitely prefer Dallas for shots. And if you want to look here for goals or points, I think they're going to score as well. I'm not sure if it's who's in net for Buffalo. Seems like floating between a couple guys, but none of them really scare me, whoever it is. I mean, the score now says Craig Anderson, which is new, but earlier I thought I saw what's his face? UPL is
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Lukanen is who Daily Faceoff is has listed. So, but to be honest, I don't know. Dallas is scoring again, and they're at home, so I think a couple things look good here. And I also, for both the Stars are at home. Cowboys suck. They feel that pressure probably from the city. Like we have to make these guys happy. So I could see Jason Robertson scoring today. Just the burden of an entire city of losers. So I don't hate that angle at all.
Yeah, he's been he's what I was gonna say is you look at his last 10, he's been scoring, maybe not as frequently as we became accustomed to, but he's got goals in there. Um, Coming off a game where he didn't score against Arizona, so, I think for whatever it's worth, I had a 3-leg goal parlay that day, and he was the only one who didn't score, and it was against the Coyotes, so, if you like always following
Oh
those kind
wow.
of
I
things,
have I have to bet him
he'll
then. I didn't know that.
yeah, he'll probably score today because that's all I needed to hit a parlay last time.
That's a fact. I only needed Austin Matthews on Saturday too, so he'll probably score as well.
So pair them together for an awesome hit. Uh,
Uh-huh.
I was gonna say I like Robertson. I think I want to double check on the price, but maybe a half a unit on him to get 5 shots. He has 5 and 7 in his last 2 games, and his line's always at 3.5, which is at -140, which I think you can. Uh, some people might play that straight. You can put that in a parlay, but when you just switch to home, he has a great hit rate, 76% at 4 shots, but you do see some big games in there with 5, 6 shots when he's on home ice. And against Buffalo, you look back at his past couple of games, 2 and 5 shots. He's a guy I think I am okay trying to take that shot on, the next step up for like half a unit. As you said, maybe he's gonna try to show out and have a nice game for Dallas. But he's had a couple big games in a row with his shots, and yeah, I just like him at home, having a chance to hit a ladder there.
Yeah, I mean he averages 2 more shots a game at home. Um, so I definitely like him. I'm gonna bet him to score. I think the fact you needed him last game for a parlay is just a nail in the coffin there. That's how it goes. So
That's your favorite data point for this
it's
play.
I mean, all last week, like these DK boosts, if I was like one leg off that leg hit every time the next game. I mean, that's how it goes. So why don't you bet Matthews goal? I'll bet Robertson, and we'll both
Just
be.
that's just gonna I'm just gonna have to do a little a little parlay on the side for fun, right? And put them together.
Yeah, I
It's
like
gonna
that.
happen.
I do. So I paired. Who did I pair this guy? I with Tavares. I did Sagan shots. I really liked here. In a game, I expect Dallas to get plenty, but he's gone over 2.5 and 4 or 5. And against Buffalo, I can only see last year. Let me bring it up real quick. Against Buffalo, Sagan is good. He's hot 4+ in 4 or 5, 4 of his last 5. So I just like that past history and seeing him hit recently as well. So we'll see if Hintz is back in, might shift some things around, but I still like Sagan here.
Yeah. There's a couple people in chat. I don't know if they caught it or not. But yeah, you needed Matthews last game to score a goal, and I
I
needed
did.
Robertson in just things we had on the side. So if you're a believer in that, that would mean that Matthews and Robertson are going to score today. So if you missed that, that's what we were saying. Yeah, the Sagan look, he's been great. With hints out, I think I like those past numbers. So that looks like a good spot. I think anybody here can potentially have themselves a nice game, but those are the main guys right now. I think Sagan and Robertson, who I would look at for shots. But that is important to keep your eye on hints.
Yeah, I mean, Hintz has been out for a little bit, which I don't love going to a guy immediately in his first game. But when I was poking around last night, Hintz's last 5 games, kind of similar to Sagan. He's got 4+ shots in 4 of his last 5 against Buffalo, with 4 goals in that span. So if he hadn't been out for the last couple weeks, couple games, that's someone I'd probably be going to. So I think he's a game time decision, but I don't love going to someone in their first game. I'm not sure the last time he's played.
It's been a little bit, yeah. Are you looking anybody else on the other side in this one or not?
Not for me. I mean, same logic would probably apply. The Bills just lost, so maybe Tage feels that pressure to bring Buffalo some happiness. But I don't really want to target Dallas here.
Yeah, the when you look at the target, it doesn't look good. Tage actually has been scoring more consistently on the road. Um, if you look at his chart, he's got a goal on the road in 7 of his last 10 games. So, well, not if somebody's going to do it, I wouldn't be surprised to see him. His shots have become like less consistent lately, though his volume is uh there have been some big games recently. He went on, a bit where he was just getting 5, 4 attempts, but he's had some big games lately. Of course, there's a couple 3-shot games in there, which, you know, sucks seeing that mixed in, but it's had an 11 attempt game, an 8 attempt game, 10, 9, 8, 7, some big games. And actually, if we filter to the road, he's he's got 4, 7, and 5 shots on goal in his last 3 road games, and he's done all right against Dallas in the times that he's played against them. He had 8 shots the last time he was in Dallas. So if I was, again, this is just if I'm looking at that side, Tage at plus money is a little bit interesting to me. If he can get that volume, it sucks seeing like against the Ducks, he had 3 attempts. He got 3 shots on goal, but 3 attempts can't do anything with that. So he needs that volume to be there. But it's had some nice games against Dallas.
Yeah, I mean, Dallas is starting to creep back up there with penalties. That will always help Tage. I'm seeing them average 3.2 in their last 10. They were down in the 2s last week. I haven't been putting those numbers together since Friday, but must have had a couple penalty heavy games recently because they're up here in the top 12 of the league again.
Yep,
So
that would definitely be the kicker there, for Tage.
that's all I got here. Anything else sticking out to you?
Uh, if you like Dallas to score, um, I would say Heiskanen's like point or assist looks kind of good, and if you're putting together a same game parlay or something with a couple of guys, he has uh 8 assists in his last 5 games. So that's pretty nice. And at home, he has 6 assists in his last 4 games. So he's been very involved on that offense. So if you like them to do some stuff, I wouldn't be surprised to see him get on the scorecard somehow.
Yeah, I like that. All righty, last game should be a fun one, hopefully. Columbus at Calgary. Obviously, I mean, if you've been betting hockey at all, this probably popped off the page pretty quickly that Calgary's going to find some shots.
I feel like it's been
Uh,
2 seasons straight of just you look at the schedule and whoever's playing Columbus, you just find somebody to bet on from the other side. Like it's been that way for so long. What a great team to play against.
yeah, I will say for what they're still very much in the upper half of the league, but I have seen that Columbus's shots allowed per game is going down a little bit. I mean, on the road, it's 33.6 lately, last 10 overall, 33.2. That's still in like the top five, but they were up at 38, 39, 40 for a while. So, not
Yeah.
to say Calgary isn't going to find shots because as a team, they shoot a ton, but I thought I would flag that not as high as it was. I mean, the Ducks are still at 40. Nashville has been awesome. Columbus is starting to, tighter is not the right word, but for whatever reason, that number is going down a little bit. But you
Not
look at,
being absolutely horrific.
but I mean, you look at Calgary versus Columbus the last year. I mean, their last 4 games, they had 32 shots a month ago, and then last 3 meetings before that, 41 shots, 62 shots, and 37. So I have full confidence they're going to be in that 35 plus. If you like same game parlaying on Caesars or Bet 365. I mean, I think a lot of people look pretty great here for
Yeah.
sure.
You could do almost the whole, yeah, obviously it's not like it's a long shot, but yeah, there's at least 4 or so guys I think that I wouldn't mind putting in a fun play like that. And we have to just start off with it because we've already touched on it so much. Toffoli he just looks really great all around. I mean, he's hit his line in 5 straight games, 3+ shots. Um, he at the season, he's got a 60% hit rate. At home, that goes up to 70%. And then just as looking against Columbus between this season and last season, 4 shots, 4 shots, 7 shots, 4 shots. So,
Go back further. He's got 4 shots in 7 straight, 4 or more in 7 straight against Columbus.
there you go. So he's I before Alt came out, I played Toffoli and Kreider together. I liked that parlay, and a lot of the times FanDuel's been, as Griffey would say, like holding us hostage with these alt lines. So I didn't want to be sitting there all day waiting. But
Sure.
definitely a fine option to fully up at 4 if you're looking at the target and his past stats. Um, if you look at the season, yeah, to me when I'm looking for uh just playing a guy at the alt line, I would like to see him hitting it a bit more. He lands on 3 quite a bit, uh, which yeah, that's why I'm fine using him in a parlay. But yeah, some other guys hit 4 and 5 a little bit more often. Not saying this isn't a good spot for Toffoli though. He has a great history, but that's why I was fine with just putting him into a parlay right off the bat. Same with Kreider. He can have big games, but um, definitely lands on that 3 um, quite a bit. So that's why I liked those 2 guys parlayed together.
Yeah, I also did. I did Toffoli with Panarin Point. I also really like Rasmus Anderson. I think Noah Hannafin looks good too, but Anderson at 1.5 shots. He's hit that in 4 of his last 5, but he's had some monster games against Columbus, who have been an awesome defenseman target. His last 3, he's got 6 shots, 3 shots, and 7. So I'm not being greedy. I just want 2. Seems reasonable. I put that with Kreider shots. So we're on the same wavelength. We just mixed and matched a little differently.
Yeah.
And then obviously Backlund's history is crazy against them, 5+ and 3 straight. My only concern, I think you're playing him. I mean, it's Columbus. I'm just a little concerned after how consistent Backlund's been his last 3 games. 4 attempts, 4 attempts, 3 attempts, going over 3 just once.
Mm-hmm.
That scares me a little, but he's been so awesome at home. Or I mean, just lately, not just at home. And those monster games are kind of tough to ignore.
Yeah, his volume has dropped a little bit, and that's why he wasn't somebody when I was starting the day before all were up. Toffoli was to me a much stronger option, especially when there's all that juice and you got to pair 2 guys together. I like to feel much more confident, and that was the reason. Backlund, his volume is going down, but as I was talking about before with like Toffoli, Backlund's a guy where a lot of the times when he does go over, he has like explosive games. Yeah, he can land on 3, but if you just look over his last 30 games prior to these last 3, where he had 2 shots, 3 shots, 2 shots, it was 6 shots, 4 shots, 5 shots, 4 shots, 3 shots, 8 shots, 5 shots. Then even going back more, there's a bunch of 4s. So I'm looking at the last 30 games, he's landed on 3 times. So for me, in such a good matchup and his history here, he was a guy where I was like, all right, I'll wait to see if alt lines come out. And they did come out. And I put half a unit on him to get 4. Half a unit just because we are noting that his volume has dropped a little bit. But the matchup here is it's just awesome. And when Backlund has a good game, he can really just go off. So I felt comfortable going with half a unit for him.
Yeah, I think it makes sense. I think the dipping volume just caught my eye, but he deserves our trust for how consistent he's been.
I got a question in chat from John Mayer. That's a funny name. He's asking thoughts on Rasmus power play point, and I like that. I like that one. I actually was looking this morning, and at first I was like, "Ooh, Toffoli power play point." He's hit 3 of his last 4 with a power play point. I was like, "Oh, plus 172. That looks nice." And then I made my way to Rasmus Anderson. I was like, "He's hitting 3 of his last 4, and he's at plus 240." And we know that Columbus can let up a lot of shots to defensemen. So if they get on a power play and Anderson just fires a shot at the net and somebody tips it or does something, I like that look. That would actually, if I was taking a shot on it, because I like to get over the plus 200 on power play points, just if I can. And just looking at the production from them and the point, the price comparison to some of these other guys who are on that power play unit, 240 looks great.
Yeah, so the only thing I would say there is, if you look at Columbus's last 5 games, their power play numbers, they've not been getting as penalized as they have been for a while, last 5 games, which is admittedly really small sample size. They're only averaging 2.8 power play opportunities per game, and their penalty kills somehow, that's what I was trying to dig in, is killing penalties at a 92.9% rate the last 5 games, which is 3rd best. But I do think, I'm trying to dig in. I mean, they played some teams that don't have a great power play, like the Sharks, the Ducks, Predators have been awful in the power play. But that is interesting. I mean, it's only 5 games. I don't see what would have changed there, but that would be my only potential concern. I don't know if they figured something out. Um, but if you just look at season long data, obviously a great target.
Yeah, no, that's worth flagging. I would say, yeah, seeing that it was the Sharks and the Ducks and stuff, maybe that made it a little bit easier, but I think the Flames might be a little too much to handle on the road, especially.
Yeah, I would agree. Should flag Johnny Gaudreau's first game in Calgary. He hasn't been very consistent, especially on the road, but he does have 5+ attempts in 6 straight games, and he scored against the Sharks on Saturday. So if you like that former team or former player playing his former team, he's plus 275 to score in Calgary. I don't expect Columbus to find many, so I'll probably stay off, but thought I would flag.
Mhm. What is Anderson at 3 shots? Do you have that up? The alt line, is it plus 144? Is that it? Around there?
I don't know. I can check. It's minus 200 for two, so it's probably
Yeah.
not a crazy price for three. Let me check. I am seeing three is plus 148. Yeah.
Okay.
Four is
Yeah.
plus 360.
Had some big games against Columbus, but yeah, I did. He's a good parlay piece for sure. I think even Hannafin looks like a good parlay piece.
Yeah, I definitely like him a ton today.
Yeah, he's got, yeah, the over his last five, 3 shots on goal and three of them. He's hit over his 1.5 line in four of those. Uh, he's hit over 1.5 against Columbus a couple times, or his last 3 times. Last
Yeah,
three times. Yeah.
the attempts definitely aren't amazing if you go off volume,
Hmm.
but I just like targeting Columbus for defensemen. And I mean, the last 3 games against him, just 7 shots on 9 attempts, 3 on 6, and 6 on 8. So who am I to question something like that?
That's I like it.
That's
That's
all
it.
I
That's
got
all the
for
games.
tonight.
Wow.
Yeah, why don't we hop to best bets and recap some other things as well? I mean, my favorite is definitely Toffoli with Panarin Point are my two favorite looks. Uh,
Yeah, well, I think it's an interesting one today because we aren't aligned on exactly the same play, but like, yeah, I guess we could say our my best bet was Toffoli and Kreider, their shots. That was the first thing I put in today. I really love that look. Um, and I'm also, yeah, I'm like in the Panarin Point and stuff like that. I think there's a lot of best bets that are kind of juiced and you can use together today. Um, but I guess our if we want to pick one as like our picket play, I think it's the Toffoli leg personally.
mhm.
And I do think that I don't know what the price is at now. I know that some people do play, you could play things minus 140 and stuff like that straight. Um, but that's my favorite look today was Toffoli. He's jumping off at pretty much any data point with his shots recently, the opponent, the history. So that's where I'm looking if I'm either picking a straight or starting a parlay.
And I would like to off of Toffoli. I think we've gotten some comments and I've seen stuff on Twitter. People start to get so nervous when everyone's on the same play. I think there's a little PTSD there from Line putting up an egg against the Ducks when everyone in the world was on him. I don't think it's worth. I mean, if you in your gut start to feel hesitant, you shouldn't bet something. But if you're just going off, if everyone likes this guy, I'm not going to bet him. I don't know if that's a great strategy. I think you should be looking into things yourself for sure. But I think there's a reason he popped up as such a awesome parlay leg today. I mean, never the 4+ shots in 7 straight to me is awesome. Um, He's been so consistent, and it's such a great opponent that
Yeah.
I would try not to get too scared off of everyone being on something. It's a long season. We're trusting this process of how we analyze things, and it's a really good spot for him.
Yeah, I think I it might be good to have like a little checklist or something. If you see everybody on a guy, right, and you're thinking, "Oh, this I can't bet this now. Everybody's on him. It's not going to hit." But if you have like a checklist on the side of what makes something a good play to you, and if it hits all the boxes, you know, I wouldn't focus on it too much. Could it not happen? Sure, but I wouldn't put that on just because everybody was on it. We don't I wouldn't change your process of liking a play strictly because of that. I mean, you know, I hate betting on afternoon games, and I my couple of my best wins this weekend were the afternoon games, and it was like a lot of people were on Hamilton yesterday. Uh and despite that, the read just made a lot of sense and it came through. And I'm drawing a blank on the previous day. I think it was the only bet I'd won was the afternoon game. And sometimes just try not to overthink it. And if you're really liking a play and it hits all the boxes, and then you get to the point where it's just like everybody's on it, and that's why you don't want to play it, uh, I wouldn't mess your process up too much.
Yeah, well said. All right, I'm gonna go rest my voice. Hopefully,
Yeah.
I'll be back on Wednesday. Thanks for joining us. Thanks to Pickett and Gold Boys for letting us talk hockey every week. Let's start this week right. It's good seeing everybody. Thanks for joining.
Yep. Good luck, guys.